Hello everyone, welcome to the Street Crime UK YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more exciting true crime content. Today we look at a Swanscombe man who is one of 3 people jailed for a £6.9 million tax fraud that funded luxury lifestyles and paid off debts. Payroll administrator Christopher Azzopardi, 37, of Church Road, was found guilty of 3 counts of conspiracy to cheat the public revenue and was jailed for 4 years for his part in the embezzlement that was carried out over 2.5 years. Aquil Ahmed, 60, an accountant from West Malling, and Victor Shearer, 43, a construction services company director from Kings Hill in Kent, were sent to prison for 7 years 8 months and 7 years 6 months respectively for their roles in the con. Mr. Azzopardi helped defraud HM Revenue and Customs of VAT, income tax, national insurance contributions and construction industry scheme deductions. The men attempted to hide their fraud by using a complex network of companies and bank accounts in the UK and offshore, but their crimes were uncovered by investigators. Mr. Ahmed employed Christopher Azzopardi to operate payroll services for clients through his various companies, supposedly calculating wages and paying any tax due. Clients were charged VAT on these services, but neither the VAT nor the deductions were paid across HMRC. Mr. Shearer's company, Leaner Logistics, supplied short-term contractors to the construction industry, mainly in London and the South East, often providing hundreds of workers at a time. Mr. Shearer turned to Mr. Ahmed's Rochester-based keepers companies to run his payroll and CIS. Mr. Shearer introduced other clients to the payroll company, who also used this fraudulent scheme. The 3 men who were arrested in 2012 and 2013 stole the money to fund Mr. Ahmed and Mr. Shearer's lavish lifestyles, with Mr. Ahmed owning a Bentley, buying various properties and taking multiple foreign holidays. Vast sums were spent by Mr. Shearer on property, high living, ski holidays, cars and treating friends, family and clients. Maidstone Crown Court heard that Mr. Azzopardi was in debt. Mr. Ahmed paid him around £60,000 a year, double a usual bookkeeper's wage, for his role in the fraud with no tax paid on his salary. Chris Gill, Assistant Director of the HMRC's Fraud Investigation Service, said, "These men were driven by greed, abusing systems that are designed to ensure workers are paid correctly and taxes paid to HMRC. They were all professionals who knew they were breaking the law, but as an accountant, Mr. Ahmed was in a position of trust, making his part in the conspiracy even more deplorable. These criminals thought they'd created a sophisticated fraud, and that by operating through numerous UK and offshore companies, they could hide what they were doing. But our investigations are thorough, and with assistance from authorities in Gibraltar, we have unravelled many of the layers they'd created, and they are now paying the price for their crimes. This investigation shows that regardless of the resources of those involved, or how hard they try to hide their crime, no one is beyond our reach. Tax evasion isn't victimless, it is theft from public services used by us all." What do you think of Mr. Azzopardi's crimes, and the crazy amount of £6.9 million that he almost got away with before being caught? Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and a share, and leave any thoughts or suggestions you have in the comments section. We love to read through them all. And if you're new but enjoy UK true crime content, then subscribe to see when our newest video releases. And as always, stay safe.
Kenneth Littlejohn, aka Kenneth Austin, is a convicted armed robber and gold breaker who claimed to be a secret intelligence service and official IRA double agent. The Littlejohn affair concerned allegations of British espionage with the use of agent provocateurs in the Republic of Ireland during the Troubles. Mr. Littlejohn had been dishonourably discharged from the parachute regiment. He served 3 years for robbery before being released from prison in 1968, from which time he worked as a car dealer. In 1970, the Midland Motor and Cylinder Company in Smethwick, Birmingham, was robbed for £38,000. The wages clerk, Brian Perks, claimed to have been overpowered by an Indian man who then took the money. Mr. Perks was Mr. Littlejohn's brother-in-law, and the police suspected a staged incident involving the 2 men. Mr. Littlejohn claims he went on the run, first to London, where he made contact with a police officer who showed him his arrest warrant and advised him to move to Dublin. In December 1970, in Dublin, he set up a company, WizKids Ireland Limited. He then moved to Kashavin, seeking a potential development site for a factory. As a flash potential investor who bought drinks for all the locals in the pubs, he became a well-known man and popular in the area. In Kerry, Mr. Littlejohn claimed he was shown a Kalashnikov, supposedly smuggled in by Russian sailors. Mr. Littlejohn turned down several potential development sites and left unpaid debts when he returned to Dublin. Pamela, Lady Onslow, was an aristocratic divorcee who occupied part of her time with an ex-Borstal organisation, Teamwork Associates, in London. Mr. Littlejohn's brother, Keith, had spent time in the Borstal and was known to Lady Onslow through the organisation. Lady Onslow was made aware of information in Mr. Littlejohn's possession and contacted her friend, Lord Carrington. On the 22nd of November 1971, a meeting was arranged at Miss Onslow's London flat between Mr. Littlejohn and British Minister Geoffrey Johnson Smith. It was at this time that the official wanted status in respect to the Smethwick robbery was downgraded to desired to interview. On the 18th of September 1972, Edmund Wolseley, a 32-year-old Catholic man, was killed in a booby trap attached to his car while his two friends were injured. The car had been stolen a week earlier, and the RUC informed Mr. Wolseley that the car had been found abandoned at the Glass Drummer near Crossmaglum, County Armagh. The bomb exploded as Mr. Wolseley went to retrieve his vehicle. While not a member of the official Irish Republic Army, OIRA, Mr. Wolseley was known to the OIRA and socialised in similar circles, something which Mr. Littlejohn knew. At the time, the OIRA suspected that Mr. Littlejohn had planted the bomb to kill Mr. Wolseley, who he suspected was a member of their organisation. In October 1972, the Allied Irish branch in Grafton Street, Dublin, was robbed of £67,000. At the time, it was the largest haul in Ireland. 3 men had turned up at the home of the manager, who was then driven to the bank while his family was held hostage. A further 3 gang members locked the staff in the vault before escaping with the money. The Ulster Volunteer Force was initially reported as responsible, following comments made by the robbers. The Littlejohn brothers were arrested in London a week following the issuance of an extradition warrant from Dublin. Following instruction from an Attorney General, the extradition proceedings were held in camera on grounds of national security. At the extradition proceedings, the brothers tried but failed to prevent a prosecution by the Special Criminal Court under the Offences Against the State Act of 1939. The Irish Attorney General had given assurances that they would not be charged with political offences under the Act. In March 1974, the brothers escaped from Mountjoy prison. Toothpaste had been used to cover up saw marks in the cream-coloured bars of the cell windows. Having escaped the wing, the brothers got over the wall using planks being used for building work. Mr. Littlejohn escaped from Mountjoy prison in March 1974 and returned to England, where he was harboured in the Birmingham home of Thomas Watt, a future prosecution witness in the Birmingham 6 trial. While on the run, Mr. Littlejohn gave several press interviews and enrolled for touch typing lessons to help him write his memoirs. Mr. Littlejohn was staying with Mr. Watt on the night in November 1974 of the Birmingham pub bombings and made tea when the detectives came to interview Mr. Watt. Mr. Littlejohn was recaptured in his underpants at gunpoint by West Midlands police detectives at Mr. Watt's home on the 11th of December 1974. Mr. Watt himself was arrested later that afternoon, but claimed he was released on Detective Superintendent Pat Cooney's orders, as he could not be prosecuted as Mr. Littlejohn's crime was committed outside the UK. The brothers were released early in 1981 on condition that they leave the Republic of Ireland. The following year, Nottingham Crown Court jailed Mr. Littlejohn for 6 years for his part in a £1,300 armed robbery at the Old Manor House, North Wingfield, Chesterfield, England. However, Keith Littlejohn was cleared of the similar offence.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Street Crime UK YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more exciting true crime content. Convicted fraudster Festus Imozivui led an 8-strong Portsmouth-based gang using more than 2,000 identities between 2014 and 2016 to order diamond rings, Rolex watches, TVs and clothes to his co-conspirators' homes under unsuspecting victims' names. Portsmouth Crown Court heard that IT graduate Mr. Imozivwe held an instruction manual on fraud and would pay gang members between £20 and £100 to take deliveries, with the total goods worth £358,000. In total, gang members were jailed for 16 years and 10 months, with all but one defendant being locked up for their part in the scam. Mr. Imozivwe received the longest sentence, with him jailed for 3 years and 8 months. Judge Timothy Moosley QC told him, "You were responsible for obtaining and providing details to others. You found people to accept deliveries and pay them. You were at the centre of the conspiracy." Whilst the financial loss falls to be met by the financial institutions, the impact on those who had their details stolen cannot be underestimated. Many of them speak of their heightened levels of anxiety, stress and fear as a result of finding out their accounts have been hacked. Prosecutor Michael Forster had told the court how victims' phones and emails were diverted so that Mr. Imozivwe could use their details without suspicion. Among the victims was 69-year-old victim Jeffrey Noble, a retired project manager from Hampshire. In a statement, he said, "The effect of this crime on me has been considerable. When I found out that I had been scammed, I was horrified and put to considerable inconvenience resetting passwords, contacting PayPal, my banks and other agencies." Mr. Noble's details were used to buy a near £3,000 designer watch. A cancer patient added, "I was furious at the time and I remain angry because nobody has the right to take the money I worked so hard for." In court, prosecutor Michael Forster said that there was some evidence of stealing to order, but also some of buying high-value goods to sell in on a shotgun approach, firing off as many transactions as you can possibly get and as many goods that come through as you can. The case came to light when BT alerted police. Officers uncovered PayPal transactions and the commerce firm helped to identify suspect deliveries. Mr. Imozivwe, known as Swifty, was at the centre of the conspiracy. Prosecutor Mr. Forster said that when police raided his home in Strode Road, Stamshall, they seized 13 phones and 13 SIM cards from the top of a wardrobe. Fingerprint experts were able to identify Mr. Imozivwe's prints from one photo extracted from his phone of a bank card in his hand. Apple goods, cash, dresses, Louis Vuitton high heels, handbags and IT textbooks were found at his home by police. A loan receipt found by police reveals he transferred cash to Romania under an alias. When he was taken to custody, officers found that he had chewed and destroyed a USB memory stick. Laptops under his mattress and a white iPhone between his pillows were linked to the fraud. During the operation, arguments flared over payments that Mr. Imozivwe made to his co-conspirator Charles Onwu's estranged wife, Chloe Maylott, who used her home to take deliveries of goods under the BT customer's name. The mum of two, Miss Maylott, branded a £40 payment a joke and told Mr. Onwu that she had demanded more from Mr. Imozivwe. In a message, she said, "I've asked for more." In a WhatsApp message she sent to Mr. Onwu, Miss Maylott said, "Did you know it's against the law to use another person's name? It's called fraud." The court heard that she had threatened to go to the police despite taking parcels in at her Buckland home. At couple Penelope Chatzik-Constantinou and Victor Ungo's home, officers found a document on a device containing hundreds of stolen identities, including bank card numbers and dates of birth. Dad of two, Mr. Ungo, who studied petroleum engineer at university in Portsmouth, claimed that Mr. Imozivwe put them on his device. Adel Kadir, who was previously jailed for having a fake passport, took in 80 orders arranged by Mr. Imozivwe at his home between March 2015 and March 2016, the court heard. Deliveries were also made to conspirator Mouled Fassiou's girlfriend's home in Methuen Road, Milton, including a £1,672 designer watch and £3,500 in 2016 using unsuspecting victims' details hacked through a phishing email. The court heard that Miss Fassiou was very good friends with Mr. Imozivwe. One message from Mr. Imozivwe said, "You went from selling Rolexes to TVs to selling prams. Please stay in one lane." Mr. Adepoju had deliveries sent to his girlfriend's home in Francis Avenue, Southsea, including trying to get a bank card sent. Overall, the amount of goods ordering to gang members' homes was £129,000 worth of goods to Mr. Onwu's address in Broome Close, £69,000 to Mr. Ungo's and PC homes in Raffles Court in Effistone Road, and at another address, including a £2,250 18-carat gold chain and diamond necklace, and a £430 iPad mini. £36,000 to Miss Maylott's home, including a fridge, She was paid as little as £20 a time or Iceland grocery deliveries for using her home. £98,000 to Kadir's home in Hillesley Road, Paulsgrove, including a £2,500 designer watch and near £5,000 diamond ring. £6,900 worth of goods to Mr. Adepoju's address, £5,900 to Miss Fasuyi's girlfriend's home in Methuen Road. On one of Mr. Imozivwe's devices, police found an instruction manual on how to commit fraud, which detailed how to get 100k easy by opening a credit card using someone else's details, Mr. Forster said. He said it was unclear how all the data was obtained. He said someone or other fraudsters got their hands on the data. The prosecutor added that it was either obtained by the fraudsters or it was acquired for money. A message from Mr. Imozivwe to an unknown party uncovered by police said, "Have you got any hacker I can buy from?" Mr. Forster said, "Whilst the Crown can't say how those details were obtained, certainly this conversation seems to do with hacking, which would be a way of getting such data." Mr. Imozivwe, 36, of Newcombe Road in Fratton, admitted conspiracy to commit fraud. He was previously handed a sentence for £20,000 fraud involving stolen identities. Robert Bryan, defending Mr. Imozivwe, said that it was unfair for him to be blamed for the entire operation. It was wrong to put all the blame on him, he said. Others were sending him messages asking how much he could give them for their Rolex. Sometimes he was just a conduit. Mr. Bryan said that there was no evidence of the fraudster hacking BT accounts, but conceded that it didn't stop him being the main facilitator who passed on information to others. He added there must have been people above him, though he was almost at the top of the gang. Mr. Onwu, 31, of Wells Close, Milton, admitted conspiracy to commit fraud. Toby Long, defending Mr. Onwu, said the defendant played a leading role in orders delivered, but as sole carer for his 7-year-old son that he had with Miss Maylott, pleaded the hard-working construction manager to be spared jail. But Mr. Onwu was jailed for 3 years and 7 months. Miss Maylott, 27, of Purebrook Way, Lee Park, admitted conspiracy to commit fraud by false representation. She has previous histories of benefit fraud. A text message from Miss Maylott to Mr. Onwu read out to the court read, "I have proof that you do fraud." Another said, "You only married me for a visa." Miss Maylott was imprisoned for 16 months. Mr. Ungo, 30, of Lowscroft Road, admitted conspiracy to commit fraud by false representation and conspiracy to convert criminal property. He has no previouses but was locked up for 43 months. Miss Chatik Konstantinou, 30, formerly of Highlands Road, Southsea, admitted conspiracy to convert criminal property. She has no previous history. Her lawyer, John Oliver, said that she exchanged a watch for cash, but didn't know what was going on with the fraud, let alone the extent. She was the only person not to be jailed and was fined £1,000. Mr. Kadir, 35, of Wolferington Road, Paulsgrove, admitted conspiracy to commit fraud. He has a previous conviction for having a fake passport that he used to go for a hair operation in Turkey. Mr. Kadir's barrister, James Caldwell, claimed his client was recruited by Mr. Imozivwe, but only received £4,000 worth of goods. He is not someone with a significant stake in the conspiracy, he said. But Mr. Kadir was sent to prison for 29 months. Mr. Fasuyi, 37, of Methuen Road, Eastney, admitted conspiracy to commit fraud. He received 2 years in jail. Mr. Adepoju, 40, of London Road, North End, admitted conspiracy to commit fraud. He was incarcerated for 19 months. Notices of deportation have been made to some of the defendants who are Iraqi, Nigerian and Greek nationals. What do you think about Mr. Imozivwe's story? Do you think he got enough of a punishment for stealing and using over 2,000 people's identities?
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and a share, and leave any thoughts or suggestions you have in the comments section. We love to read through them all. And if you're new but enjoy UK true crime content, then subscribe to see when our newest video releases. And as always, stay safe.
Hello and welcome to the Street Crime UK YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Today we're going to take a look at the case of two brothers who have been given a jail sentence totaling 17 years for their roles in an operation to supply large quantities of Class A drugs in Bradford. Daniel Shaw, who was 25, of Albion Road, Idle, Bradford, was imprisoned for 10.5 years after the police seized a 30-kilo stash of heroin worth £1.5 million. It was stored in a laundry bag concealed under a blanket at an address in the city, along with almost £100,000 in cash and hidden in a padlocked sport bag. Joseph Shaw, who was 29, of Green Road, Belden, was jailed for 6.5 years after he transported 2 kilos of heroin from London to Bradford. Daniel Shaw pleaded guilty to conspiracy to supply heroin, cocaine and cannabis. Joseph Shaw admitted being concerned in the supply of heroin and conspiracy to supply cocaine and cannabis. Prosecutor Alistair Campbell told Bradford Crown Court that the police had found the 30 kilos of heroin and £99,935 in cash at a third man's home on August the 22nd, 2021. He was storing them to help pay off a drug debt. He went to the police to tell them about the hauls of drugs and cash, maybe to end his involvement in the enterprise because he was being exploited by those higher up in the chain, Mr. Campbell said. 3 days later, Daniel Shaw was arrested after a phone he was using was traced by good old-fashioned policing and found hidden under a sofa at his home. The police have seized £2,000 in cash from his address, the court was also told. Mr. Campbell said that on one occasion, when drugs were suspected of being moved around, a taxi driver in Bradford remarked on the weight of the bags being put into his boot, saying they had affected his vehicle's suspension. Joseph Shaw was arrested on November 2nd, 2021, after police became suspicious that he too was involved. Incriminating messages between the brothers showed that they had been plotting to become involved in the drug business between March and August 2021. No cocaine had ever been found, but the messages showed the idea of purchasing decent stuff and that cannabis was being grown at Joseph Shaw's address. Mr. Campbell said Joseph Shaw had spoken of wanting a Ricky lifestyle, referring to the glamorous and lavish lifestyle lived by a man in Spain. Neither defendant had any previous convictions, the court was also told. Mohammed Rafiq said in mitigation for Daniel Shaw that he was 23 when he got involved in the drugs enterprise out of greed and stupidity. He had left home at 21 and began associating with undesirable people. It was for him a way of making some quick money perhaps, Mr. Rafiq said. He had fallen into temptation and greed and had already begun to rehabilitate himself. Family members were in court to support him and references and testimonials spoke very high of him. He was making good progress in prison, on remand, taking courses and earning a trusted status in jail. Speaking of the fact that both men would be jailed, Mr. Rafiq said, "For a family to lose 2 sons is an unmitigated disaster." Daniel Shaw was very much in a dark place and he asked the court to give him some light at the end of the tunnel. He had shown contrition and remorse and he was now going in the right direction. For Joseph Shaw, Saul Brody stated that he was a courier on 2 occasions, bringing a kilo of heroin both times from London to Bradford. He had little awareness or understanding of the scale of the operation. There was no evidence of multi-kilo transporting on his part. Mr. Brody said Joseph Shaw was held in high regard by many people. He had spent a long time in custody and was assessed by the probation service as being a very low risk of reoffending. Mr. Brody also pointed to the fact that no actual cocaine was ever purchased or sold. Judge Ahmed Nadim said the men came from a hard-working, law-abiding family and had never been in trouble before, but drugs blight communities and ruin lives. These brothers had been in pursuit of a lifestyle out of their reach and didn't care about the damage they were inflicting upon communities. Judge Nadim set a Proceeds of Crime Act timetable to calculate and seize the money and assets made from the drugs enterprise. He commended the police team involved in the investigation. Thank you for joining us today. What are your opinions on the Shaw brothers? Do you believe the sentence was too harsh or not harsh enough? Please let us know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this content, please don't forget to like and share. And if you're new to the channel and want to see more Street Crime UK content, hit subscribe and press that bell so you can join us on the next video. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, stay safe.